Chapter 1: Overcoming a Language Barrier. The days flew by as I continued to immerse myself in London. I was getting more comfortable navigating the city, and my English was improving, but there was still one challenge I had to face: understanding the local accent. One morning, I went to a cafe near the Tower of London to grab breakfast. I had been there a few times before, and the barista had always been friendly, but today, something was different. The cafe was packed, and there was a line at the counter. I waited patiently, mentally preparing myself to order. When it was finally my turn, the barista greeted me. "Good morning. What'll it be today?" I smiled and tried to sound confident. "I'll have a coffee and a croissant, please." She nodded, but then she said something that completely threw me off. "What kind of coffee would you like, love?" I paused for a second, trying to figure out what she had said. I understood coffee and love, but the rest was a blur. I wasn't sure if she had asked if I wanted milk, sugar, or something else. I took a deep breath and asked politely, "Sorry, could you repeat that?" She smiled and said more slowly, "What kind of coffee would you like, love?" I still wasn't sure, but I decided to take a guess. "Just black coffee, please." She smiled again and nodded. "All right, black coffee it is." When I sat down with my coffee and croissant, I felt a bit embarrassed. But then I realized this was exactly why I was here: to practice and make mistakes. It was a small slip-up, but I had handled it. As I enjoyed my breakfast, I made a mental note to practice listening to different English accents. I was learning that language wasn't just about words, but also about understanding different ways people speak. Chapter 2: The Unexpected Challenge. A few days later, I faced one of the most unexpected challenges of my journey. I had planned to visit the famous Borough Market, known for its food stalls and vibrant atmosphere. It was the perfect opportunity to try new dishes and practice my English with the locals. As I walked through the market, I was overwhelmed by the colorful displays and the sense of fresh produce and cooked meals. I spotted a stall selling fish and chips, a classic British dish I had been dying to try. I approached the counter where a man was preparing the food. "Hi, I'd like to try the fish and chips, please," I said, trying to sound confident. He smiled and nodded. "What size would you like, love? Small or large?" I thought for a moment. "Small, please," I replied, remembering the portion sizes I had seen earlier. He handed me the food and said, "That'll be $6.50. I reached into my wallet to pay, but then I realized I only had a $10 note. I felt a moment of panic. What if I didn't have enough money? I quickly counted the coins in my pocket and realized I was short. I hesitated, unsure of how to handle the situation. "I'm sorry," I said. "I don't have enough. Can I pay with my card instead?" The man looked at me, smiled, and said, "No problem, love. Just tap your card on the reader." I breathed a sigh of relief as I paid. The transaction was quick, and I walked away with my fish and chips in hand. As I sat on a nearby bench to eat, I realized how much I had learned from this small, unexpected moment. Not only had I navigated the transaction successfully, but I had also used English in a real-life situation. It was another reminder that the key to learning a language wasn't perfection. It was persistence. Chapter 3: Meeting New Friends. It was the weekend, and I decided to visit a park I had heard about, Regent's Park. It was a beautiful, large green space where people often went to relax, walk dogs, or enjoy the outdoors. I had been feeling a bit lonely lately, missing my friends and family back home. As I walked along the paths, I noticed a group of people sitting on the grass playing frisbee. I hesitated for a moment. Should I approach them? I wasn't sure if they'd be open to talking to a stranger. But then I remembered my goal, to speak English and get comfortable in this new culture. Taking a deep breath, I walked over to them and said, "Hi, can I join you guys?" One of the young women smiled and nodded. "Of course. We're just having fun. Come on in." I introduced myself, and they introduced themselves in return. Their names were Sarah, Tom, and Emily. We started talking about where we were from and what we did. They were kind and welcoming, asking me about my travels and offering suggestions for places to visit in London. As we played frisbee together, I found myself getting better at understanding their fast-paced conversation. At first, I struggled a bit, but they were patient with me and repeated things when I asked. They even helped me with some phrases like, "throw it over here," and "nice catch." By the end of the afternoon, I felt more relaxed and confident. I had made new friends, practiced speaking English in a casual setting, and learned a lot of useful phrases. As I walked back to my flat, I thought about how important it was to put myself out there, even when it was uncomfortable. It wasn't just about speaking the language, it was about connecting with people, sharing experiences, and stepping outside of my comfort zone. Chapter 4: The Real Test. The following week, I received an invitation to attend a small gathering at a local pub. It was hosted by Emily, one of the friends I had met at the park. She had invited a few of her friends, and it seemed like a fun opportunity to practice my English in a social setting. I was excited, but also nervous. I arrived at the pub, which had a cozy, welcoming atmosphere. There were people chatting, laughing, and enjoying their drinks. As I walked in, Emily waved me over to a group of people seated at a table near the back. She introduced me to everyone, and I felt a bit overwhelmed by the number of new faces. "Hi, I'm Sophia," I said, trying to smile and sound confident, though my heart was racing. "Nice to meet you, Sophia," said one of the guys, a tall man with dark hair. "I'm Jack, and these are Lucy and Ben." I nodded and greeted everyone, trying to remember their names. Emily asked me to sit next to her, and we started talking about what I had been up to in London. At one point, the conversation turned to a topic I wasn't familiar with: football. Everyone began discussing the latest match, and I realized I didn't know much about the sport. I felt a bit lost. But then, instead of staying quiet, I decided to ask questions to keep the conversation going. "So, who won the game? Was it a close match?" I asked. Jack looked at me and smiled. "Yeah, it was really close. It was down to the last few minutes. You should come watch with us next time." I was relieved that I could participate in the conversation, even though I wasn't an expert on football. It reminded me that sometimes asking questions and showing interest in others is just as valuable as knowing all the facts. That night, I left the pub feeling proud of myself. I had not only made it through a real social situation, but I had also deepened my connection with new friends. Chapter 5: The Moment of Reflection. As the weeks went by, I continued my English lessons, explored more of London, and met new people. Each experience taught me something new, whether it was a useful phrase, a cultural nuance, or just a reminder of the power of patience and persistence. But there was one moment that stood out, a moment of realization that I had truly come a long way. It was a sunny afternoon, and I was sitting at a small cafe sipping a cappuccino. Emily and Tom had invited me to join them for a casual chat. As we sat by the window, the conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about everything, from favorite movies to future travel plans, and I realized something amazing. I wasn't just translating in my head anymore. I was thinking in English. I paused for a moment, smiling to myself. I had reached a point where I didn't need to mentally search for words or phrases. The language was coming naturally, like second nature. I could follow conversations, add my thoughts, and express myself with confidence. "Hey, Sophia," Tom said, interrupting my thoughts. "You're quiet today. What's on your mind?" I looked at him and smiled. I was just thinking about how much I've learned over the past few weeks. It's amazing. I can actually talk to people here without getting nervous. Emily laughed. "You've come so far, Sophia. We can really tell. It's awesome to see you so comfortable." I felt proud of myself, but I also knew this wasn't the end. Learning English wasn't something that happened overnight. It was a journey, a continuous, ever-evolving process. That evening, I reflected on everything I had accomplished. From asking for directions to making new friends, from understanding fast conversations to feeling like a part of the community, every step had been worth it. I knew I still had a long way to go, but I was excited for what the future held. One thing was certain, I wasn't just a traveler anymore. I was truly becoming a part of this world, speaking its language, living its stories.